back, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here on this Saturday. My name is Ingrid Jean-Baptiste. For those who do not know me yet, I am the founder and director of the Chelsea Film Festival in New York City that is celebrating its 8th annual edition with 130 films from 18 countries until Monday on Film Festival Plus, our virtual platform. We will paste the link in the chat here on Zoom and also on Film Festival Plus. Please support the arts and emerging filmmakers. This is a very important time to show your support. And for the past 5 years, we've been presenting the Real Magic Hour program to inform and educate ourselves about the business of entertainment. And I'm very happy to present another panel today with Meet the Decision Makers. So we have a wonderful list of speakers that I'm going to introduce you. So I'd like to welcome Pam Dixon. She is a casting director and she's also the past president of the Casting Society of America. She's currently a co-chair of the Western Region, the Actors Fund. Our next guest is Vinca Jarrett. She's an entertainment attorney, executive producer, and a dear friend of mine as well. Welcome, Vinca.
Thank you.
My next guest is Souad Houssein. She is the cinema program director at La Francophonie and also responsible for the Image Fund of Francophonie. And she's joining us all the way from Paris. And I know it's late there, so thank you all for joining us. And I have the honor to present Andy Goldman. He's the Chief Content Officer at Groovy. And also he is right now serving as an adjunct professor at NYU Tisch. He will be moderating this panel today, which is Meet the Decision Makers. So welcome all, thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Daniel. And thank you, Sonia, for inviting me to be part of this very exciting panel. Pam, Souad, and Vinca, I think we're going to have a fun afternoon and just want to keep this conversational and light. And by the way, to my co-panelists, to everybody out there, I hope you're safe and doing well wherever you are. And let's dive right in. So I'm going to just go right, get to the meat of the matter. The one connective tissue we all have is, I think, this love of entertainment here. So I'd like to ask you, and I'll start with you, Pam, was there an aha moment that you knew entertainment was for you as a career?
Well, I came to it kind of from the left field. So not really. I graduated from USC and in special ed. So I was never really involved in entertainment, but I got an internship at CBS. And when I got the internship, they sent me to 7 departments, both in New York and Los Angeles, one of which was the casting department. And after my 6 weeks in the casting department, the head of casting took me to lunch, which was quite unusual, and said to me, "I'd love to have you stay." And I wanted to go to law school, and CBS at the time had a wonderful program where if you went to college at night, they would pay for it. So I thought, what a great thing. I can go to SC at night, I can have this job, and I'll go to law school. And what happened is I never went to law school, and I just kind of continued on this path. But I did grow up always watching movies and loved movies.
That's great. And by the way, for those of you who were born after 2000, there was something called tuition reimbursement that a lot of big companies, offered as retention to keep talent, people such as yourself. So now I'm going to go to Souad. Souad, did you have a particular moment where you said, "Hey, the entertainment business is for me"? You have to unmute.
Souad, you have to unmute.
Unmute.
I think that cinema loves me before I know cinema, because when I born, my mother gave me the name of Egyptian actress, very famous Egyptian actress in the 50s, like that. Her name is Souad Hosni. And she used to go to see films in Marseille, south of France. And when she take all the children with her to see the films always every once a week. So I think entertainment and cinema is something that it's a gift. It's a gift for me. It's a gift. I didn't make some studies on this subject. I study communication, and I'm very interested in laws also and languages. But finally, and my elder brother is a réalisateur for TV, Djiboutian TV in East Africa. And so he learned to me a lot of things. So it's a family things. It's a family.
So you were born into the family business, you're saying. you had no choice. So
I think I born in a family who didn't go to school. My brother, mother, so they like cinema because they can understand the cinema, and this was the way to go to school. It's to see films.
So you are the Corleones of the cinema world, okay? I want you to think about that. Vinca, our friend, our actual lawyer. Vinca, I'd love to hear, did you know about you? I mean, being a lawyer, let's face it, that has multiple applications there, but you have concentrated on the entertainment side of law. Could you talk about that? Did you know that you always wanted that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. I was born into a film industry family. I'm from the Jaffe family. 2 cousins ran 2 movie studios, and I grew up acting. I went to Stage Door Manor, a popular theater camp in upstate New York, was there with Robert Downey Jr. back in the day. And yet I totally didn't want to go in the business whatsoever. I acted in New York. Pam, I was an actress when I was a teenager, but I never thought I had talent. So it was kind of a foregone conclusion I wouldn't be an actor. So I became an environmental litigator. I was kind of fighting the left-wing fight for more than a decade. And in '99, as I watched George Bush, who I thought was the worst we could do, get elected. I'm sorry if I'm getting political here. I said I'm done. I said I've been fighting the Clinton administration on environmental issues with Al Gore as vice president. How the hell am I going to do it against the Bushes? And I sat down with my family and I said, I don't know what to do. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I've been fighting Exxon, and they said, all your friends are in the arts. You go to Sundance every year for your vacation. I had been going to Sundance since it began for my vacation to go ski and watch movies. And I literally changed my life. And I got into the finance at that very moment. I always like to tell people I started at the top and I worked my way down. So I started doing studio finance with CIBC, the successor and interest deal to the Village Roadshow. And that all crashed and burned around 2003. All those deals went away. And then there was the other crash in 2008 to 9. And that's how I kind of worked my way into the independent film finance world and distribution. And that's kind of my weird trajectory, which I always kept my fingers in. When I teach like you do at Tisch, I teach at BU sometimes, and I've guest lectured all over the world at universities. And I always say to the kids, it doesn't matter if you make your money in the industry right now. But if you're passionate about this industry, you'll find ways to hobby it and do things and volunteer and get into nonprofit work and things like that. And one day you'll have the opportunity to make this your thing, and all that other stuff will suddenly make sense. All your contacts will have begun. And that's how it was for me.
That's great. Thank you all for that. Now, obviously, you're in the strangest of times right now with COVID and everything like that, which I assume is bringing on additional challenges. And I'm going to start with you, Souad. What challenges have you faced now in this time of COVID, and how have you addressed them, in terms of keeping your business going forward?
First of all, I have to explain that as long as I work for a non-profit organization, we give some survives to some films, but it's very short, very small money. Anyway, the African films are made with little budget, and my goal and what I would like to do is that these films doesn't go only on festival. Festival is very important, but I would like that some good films can go to platforms, go to public, etc., etc., because they are not in the market. Absolutely not. They go from small money to small money. Sometimes they take 5, 6 years to make the budget, and they always tell me, Souad, why are you here? You're not helping us in a good way. And I want to change that. I want to change that. It doesn't depend on me, but I think everybody can do something as long as you believe in what you do.
I think
Pam said, I want to take African cinema out of misère, poverty, no public, no theaters, and the only thing is festival. Yes, it's good festival, but it is not enough to make people live their films. They don't live with their films.
That's great. You know, obviously, you know, in this, you know, booming OTT world, there's more eyeballs than ever. And I, you know, with the sheltering in and everything. So I have no doubt that, you know, as crazy as outside, you have this opportunity now to kind of, you know, have the, hopefully your budgets will be met faster.
Yeah.
Five-year window that you were mentioning.
Yeah, now it's an opportunity for countries like Africa without theaters. It is the opportunity because we have Netflix, we have everything, we have a lot of platforms, and films can travel all over the world. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of variety. You can see from each country, and I think it make a big change for people. Before the African film, it seems more in stranger country than in Africa. The only one who see African film in Africa is Nigeria, but the other country, there are films or seen with a few people outside of Africa. And now I would like to have an African audience also, an international audience. I think it's time to do it.
You know something, I have no doubt you will. And the one thing I know from the streaming world, there's a platform for every piece of content out there. Vinca, I'd like to ask you the same question, you know, in this world, you know, what some of the challenges that you're facing, how you're addressing them.
Okay, it's interesting. I mean, so first of all, most people don't know this, but I live in Boston. I don't live in LA. I don't live in New York. And I've spent the last 20 plus years of my career in the industry getting on the airplane about 6 to 8 months a year. So I have actually never been at home as long as I have been. And I'm not at home right now. I got in the car and traveled, but I was home for 7 straight months. So I basically got off the plane from Berlinale. I went to London to do some business there. And I came home on the 9th of March and everything shut down, as we all know. So that's been very challenging, even though I've never operated my business in one location. So my clientele have been worldwide. They've been all over the United States, Canada, Germany, Australia, England, France. So I've literally done legal work and executive producing on films that have shot all over the world. And now nothing's shooting. So I've had one client up in Canada that's done a little bit of film work right now. None of my American clients are actively shooting anything. I have an Icelandic client that came to Atlanta and shot some film, and he's there now wrapping it up, but they brought this Icelandic producer in to basically produce the film because he took the COVID seriously. And I think they were scared that the American producers would thwart the protocols that were in place down there. So I think that was one of the reasons behind it, interestingly enough. I've also, because in a weird way, I like to call our business, it's somewhat a hobbyist business. So maybe 20% of our business is actually employed and earns a living from it. And I would say the percentage goes way down for someone earning a living from a single job in the industry. So many of us have multiple roles, including myself. So I'm a lawyer, but I also make money executive producing, also make money consulting to film festival. You know, I do all sorts of other things to supplement my income like everybody else does. And then the rest of the industry, the 80%, do not earn a living from this industry. They earn elsewhere. You know, how do you make $1 million in the film business? You start with $3 million. That's the old adage, but it's sadly it's accurate. So because of that, a lot of my clients are very wealthy or moderately wealthy people who are producing their own films. They earn their living in an entirely different way. It's how they make their money. And this is their hobby. This is their ski trip. And instead of a ski trip, they make a movie. Instead of an African safari, or in addition to the African safari, they make a movie. And so now what's fascinating to me, and I'm seeing this even from really wealthy people, is they're all pulling back and saying, if they're in a wait and see mode, like, I'll spend that little extra money right now. Now I am starting to see a break in that. I am starting to see the fear factor is starting to subside. The reality is sinking in. And at the end of the day, people love the creativity. So they're all slowly starting to come back, wake up, start reading scripts again, start thinking about, oh, maybe I could put a little money, you know, into this and see where it goes. But it is an interesting thing. The last 6 months has been very, very different than anything I've ever seen from a finance or legal perspective. So.
Wow. I agree with you 1000%. Pam, how about yourself? I mean, there was a pilot season, but no pilots, and you know, production is slowly moving forward, but you're not in the room now, I assume. And so what are some of the challenges?
Well, I can be in the room via Zoom and different platforms. I can be in the room. I think the thing that's happened to me is I am busy, because what's happening is that people, I do a lot of independent films, and they want to project they're going to have something to go. Like, this was kind of interesting. I did Possessor, which was released weeks ago in the theater. And I go, theater? That's crazy. Well, anyway, and it made a lot of money. So I've just decided there's no reason during this period for anything. You just kind of have to forge forward and do what you can do. I think the good thing about my job is that it is continuing, and I'm giving people, actors, the opportunity to be sitting at home with the prospect of hopefully going to work. They can sit in their house, they can do an audition. We've even done chemistry reads via Zoom, where two people aren't really together, but they are. So that's been interesting. I think what's been good for casting directors is we were kind of on a path to do a lot of things remotely, to people do self-tapes, because people didn't want to travel to your office or time constraints. So it's something that is just a big continuation. The thing I miss the most, to be really honest, is that in-person gut feeling about somebody, which, as good as these platforms are, I have to say, it really isn't the same. So I do miss that. But I am hopeful as we continue on that I will continue to do films, and I will be able to give people the opportunity to work. Most of the films that I'm currently doing, I'm doing 4, they're all going in March. And what I'm also finding is that the actors are reading more quickly because it's their time, and we're getting answers, and people are committing. The biggest problem we have is scheduling, because if they were in a TV series and they don't know if it's finished, then we have to wait. And we're not quite sure when anything goes back, but all the things I'm doing are aiming for a March date.
Really good points.
Really
Andy, can I do a follow-up to what Pam just said here?
Absolutely, please.
So, just a few things, and this is like my lawyer mind. I hear points that all of you are making, and I can respond to it. Well, one, I have heard from a lot of actors that this virtual auditioning, while difficult and challenging, has been a wonderful thing for them. So all my actor people, I don't have many actor clients, it's not what I do, but I have a lot of actor friends from around the country. And so they're all talking about that. So that, Pam is doing, in my opinion, she's doing the good work now to keep the business going, because she's part of that system that's keeping the actors enthusiastic and not getting depressed about the future, and hopefully they're keeping going. And there are a lot of very small projects. A British project, I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the name of it right now, but the producers that I work with decided just to hell with it. They were going to make it. She was an actress, he was a director. They both produced together. They're a married couple, and they're very close friends with Ian McKellen. And so they got Ian McKellen to be in the 2-person movie. That's a sci-fi thing that they shot from April to June, and then they spent the summer editing, and it got a distribution deal 2 days ago. So it's going to be released, in Australia and England, and probably here, a few other places right off the bat. And it cost them virtually nothing to make. And I'm sure Sir Ian worked for a piece of whatever it does make, because there was money on that. But so there, for the filmmakers in the audience, what I would say is, you've got to be thinking, I like to say the sex, lies, and videotape model. You have to be thinking very few locations, very few actors, very compelling story, where you want to watch actors, a lot of close-ups right now. You should not be thinking of gigantic movies and writing that, unless you want to just take this time period to write the next big script, that's going to take you a year to do it. But if you want to make movies, you need to be writing things for 1 actor, 2 actor, maybe 6 actors, but not much more than that right now. And keep your stories really small, because there's no such thing as a story that's too small or too big. It's just good stories. You're either good or you're not. So you can have the small story like Moonlight, which is the perfect example of just 3 or 4 actors, 5 or 6 actors in it, with few locations. They could shoot that movie now. And I don't know about the rest of you, we're all watching tons of movies at home. I know I am. And I say, oh yeah, that one could be made during COVID. That one couldn't be made during COVID. We should remake that one during COVID. That's kind of my standards and my process now. Anyway, just 2 cents.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more. So Vinca, I'm going to start with you, and obviously Pam and Souad, you have some time to think about. Has there been a project that came across your desk, and for whatever reason, you guys said, not for me, but went on to huge success somewhere else?
Oh, that's a really good question. Oh, I should have had that in advance. I have such a bad memory that I have to think
But then we can move on, and you can think about it,
For me, not so much what you just said, but I've had projects that were not my taste that I worked on that went on to that surprised me that they went on to success. The Fourth Kind is that movie. It's a movie that's gone on to, and it's astounded me because I've met young people from all over the world that say it's like one of their top 10 cult movies. Like they just love The Fourth Kind, Mila Jovovich, everything. And I worked on it from script level with the writer director, executive produced it, and there was nothing about it that I really liked about it. I mean, I worked on the script. I helped with that a little bit, but I put the entire deal together. And I actually, Pam, you'll like we closed the deal at 11:59, the day of the then actors strike, writers and actors strike. That was, I think, was the writers strike. That was about, my director on that joined the WGA 3 weeks before the strike because he wasn't bright enough to understand that a strike was coming. He hadn't asked around, and the whole industry knew a strike was coming, but he somehow missed it. And so he joined it. And because of that, if we didn't close the deal, the movie wouldn't get made. And at that moment, I was in LA for AFM. I was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which I would never stay at now, politically incorrect as it is. But back then I was staying there. And I remember my finance partners had put me up there, and I was like, what? I can't believe I'm getting to stay at this place. Walked into my room and there was a fax machine. Remember fax machines when you needed them? And I was like, what do I need a fax machine in my room for? This is like really weird. And then that morning I woke up the day of the strike. It was a Friday. And a friend of mine who was one of the senior counsel at SAG at the time called me and said, if you've got any deals in place, strike is about to happen. And you've got to close a deal tonight. And I called the head of Gold Circle, the legal counsel there, and I said, we have to get that deal closed tonight. The strike is happening. And he said, no, they promised the strike wouldn't happen until December. We've got plenty of time. And I said, well, they've changed the rules. They're doing it in the middle of AFM deadline and closing tonight. And he's like, who is this Boston lawyer that thinks she knows everything? And he hung up the phone on me. And then at noon that day, I'm at the pool going, okay, you know, whatever. I'm sitting at the pool, hanging out. And I get this call saying, you're right, the strike is happening tonight. We've got to get the deal done. So I spent the entire day in my room with the fax machine, faxing back and forth. And we did something like 12 drafts and like, you know, in 10 hours or something. And we were the very last deal to get approved, the very last deal that got to Screen Actors Guild and WGA for approval before the strike happened and shut the business down for 8 months. So kind of an interesting story. And also really about how in this business, you can go into a lull like we are now, and then suddenly something happens and you got to jump with it and go. So don't let this lull confuse you that it's over. All of a sudden, everything could change again, just like it did in March. And we could all be back, or your deal could be back. You could get an actor who's read, like Pam said, and suddenly green light the project for 6 months from now. So you got to be on it. Got to be on it.
That's great. Thank you, Vinca. So Pam, maybe it's not a project, but maybe there was a person who had a bad lunch and gave a bad audition for you, and then you watch them kind of move forward. Or maybe there's a project that was just not for you. So please share.
There wasn't a project that I turned down that became successful. That has not happened to me. I've read one project that when I read it, I knew it would be an instant success, and that was City Slickers. The minute that Billy Crystal gave me that script, I called him up. I went home, I read it. We had lunch together, and I went home and read it and called him up and said, this is going to make so much money. And I've never said that. And he said, really? I said, yep. And we had a lot of trouble casting it. So it was interesting that I turned out to be right. That's it. I think in terms of me personally seeing someone and then they go on, not really, but because everything is so collaborative, because I either have a financier or I have a studio or I have a network. I did have a movie project in the beginning of Jennifer Lawrence's career. And I really wanted her, and we did not go with her. And they went with someone else who did not become, you know, the person, but did not become anywhere where Jennifer Lawrence is. And to this day, I've never forgotten that, ever.
That's great. No.
Yeah, and she went right on. I mean, it was crazy. I think we were the first people to ever really test her. We had a test deal and everything. It was so frustrating.
No, that's wonderful. Souad, how about yourself? You know, you hear, you know, for the aftermarket and growing up, have you heard about a project that you just said at that moment wasn't for you, and then somebody else took it and ran with it? You're on mute, Souad. Mute.
Excuse me. I don't have, I would like to tell you a story.
Please.
It's not so indirect with the question, because in my work, I don't choose the project. We have a conseil. We have a group of person, producer, filmmakers, everything, who take the decision. So we have a committee who make the decision and read the script, the project, and finally decide.
Then can I modify my question? Have you ever been, and let's face it, we all are, the smartest person in the room when everybody is kind of like against your point of view? When you're talking about this committee, did you ever have the opposing point of view, and how did you address it? How about that? Because you are the decision maker.
Je ne comprends pas trop la question. Je vais te dire. Excuse me, maybe my English is
No,
very.
I tell you what, if you want to just go back to like, just talk about like a project that maybe was, how you would, when you heard a project and you were just like, talk about the committee process,
Okay,
if you
I
will.
would like to tell you one thing. One time I was invited in Dubai with the Dubai Film Festival, and they give some prizes to development project for development and for Arabic project. And some people wanted to pitch to me some project. And I used to take the person who used to speak French. So French speaking Arabic people is Morocco, Tunisian, etc., etc. And one time I heard a woman talking about her project, and it is a woman who she gave a prize in Cannes, and this project I like so much that I cry when she's talking to me about this project. I was just crying all the time, and I said, this project, if I have the money, if I have myself, I put the money on it. I was in love with this project, but it was not a project that my work can help, because it's shoot in France, and the fund where I work on, you have to shoot your film in Africa. So no means to help this person, this project, and a big love to this project. Though it was something very terrible, and I was very happy because she gave she gave the prize in Cannes. She gave the prize. So I said, au moins, at least I can say that it was a very good project. It was a.
Well, I think Souad answered is the only one of us that answered your question properly.
And that's perfectly fine. We are omnidirectional here, folks. That's all I can say. Okay, and this is for everybody, and I'm going to start with Pam. Pam, aside from brilliant, and this is for all three of you, aside from brilliant, charming, accomplished, because that's baked into the cake with all of you, that's why you are the special guest here, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Compassionate.
Terrific. Souad?
In one word?
One word.
Generous.
Wonderful. Vinca?
Adventurous.
Excellent. Excellent. Have to ask you, you have moved up, and let's face it, you don't move into these roles of the decision maker without some trial and error. But do each one of you have a mentor? And if you do, who was that person, and what was the most significant contribution to your career? We'll start with Vinca.
Okay, I definitely do. A guy named Britt Fletcher. This is really boring for most of you because he's not a talent. He's not a producer, an actor, or writer. But Britt Fletcher was a banker, believe it or not, which is almost embarrassing to admit that a banker would be a mentor to me. But when I got into the finance side, what I was impressed with that Britt taught me is that you can learn how to do anything if you work hard enough at it, that it's the deal that you need to focus on getting closed, and not the underlying work is important. You can get really distracted by all the fun stuff, and project don't close if you get distracted by the fun stuff. So this is something else. I kind of moving off of Brit, but the same time period of my life, early 2000, Michelle, who is the producer of Catch Me If You Can and I, Robot, was one of my first bigger clients in the business. And he used to say that we're all festival family. And when we make a single project, the problem is when we fight, there's no makeup sex. So we have to keep the peace on the project and get along. And for that reason, Michelle had gone to law school for 1 year and dropped out to become a film producer when he was in his early 20s. And he said that you're on these projects forever. You know, it's not just done. It's not just the raising of the money and the creating of the script and getting the actors and then getting it in production and then finally getting distribution. Your movie's in the world being distributed for the rest of your life. And you've got to get along with the people that you make the film with, just so you could come back to a panel like this 20 years from now and talk about the film with those people. You don't want somebody to say, I'll never be on that panel with that guy that I worked with again. So he says, you are a family and you're moving from project to project and creating and expanding your family all the time. And to me, that's a philosophy I have made and utilized in the festival circuit. I met Sonia at Milena, and that's how I got to know Ingrid. And this is festival family. They are family of a different kind. And hopefully, you know, Pam, Souad, and Andy will be part of my festival family now. We'll get to meet, you know, in person and break bread and drink a glass of wine or have a toast a glass of champagne today. But that's important. But the project and closing the deal, like Britt said, that is also important. So you've got to have both those sides, your left brain and your right brain, going all the time. That's my roundabout. Two people.
Excellent, excellent. Souad, how about somebody in your life that and their major contribution?
I think that it's my father, because my father was a self-made man. He was a sailor. He was not in cinema or he was a sailor, and he moved from Djibouti, East Africa, to France, and he learned to speak in the boat. He see all over the world. He traveled all over the world, and he learns a few languages. He learned how to read, to write, and he learned also to be courage, to have courage. And I think sometimes when I feel like, oh, I will not do that. No, it's not for me. I want to quit everything and go sleeping, you know. Sometimes I think to him, he passed away. I say, no, your father was not armed to this life, and you are more armed because you read, you write, you went to school, so you can face this problem. You can face the problem. That's why he's my mentor.
That's wonderful. Pam.
Well, I've had two mentors because I've had two different lives. As an executive, which I was half my life, it was definitely Michael Eisner. And in my independent movie world, it was definitely Robert Altman. So I think both of them, Michael Eisner obviously took me from the very beginning and made me an executive at ABC. Then he took me with him to Paramount, made me an executive at Paramount. And Robert Altman gave me the opportunity to do something I always dreamed of, which was to cast independent films. And I think they both gave me great confidence, but more importantly, they taught me to always fight for what I believed in. Whether I was right or wrong, it didn't matter, but I should never give up on what I believe in. And I think that has been, throughout my entire careers, both of them, has been the most important thing to me. Because a lot of times in what I do, casting is an art. There is no school you go to. It's all opinion. It's almost like being an interior decorator. Like, I can walk in, an interior decorator walks into houses, we should do this. And you go, no, I want to do this. They're not wrong, you're not right. Same thing with my job. I mean, I could have 5 casting directors in a room and we could all see the same audition. And it is quite possible that there could be 5 different opinions. Now, none of us are really wrong. It's our opinion. So I think to fight for what you believe in is really important. And I think what makes you successful is being right more than wrong.
Excellent. Thank you. And what a wonderfully wide pendulum from the business to the creative in terms of having those mentors, because let's face it, all three of you have to use both sides of those skill sets. So that's wonderful.
I would argue that everybody in the business, to be successful, would have to use both sides of those skill sets. And the big mistake, a lot of talent, whether it be in even producers or talent, so writer, director, actor, costume designer, if you don't have a business sensibility on part of your brain, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to make it in the end. You have to really do that. And if you have weak spots, it's also very important to surround yourself with the people that can gap that, the trustworthy people that can do that. So I think those are really important.
Since I have you, Vinca, okay. So let me ask, I've already asked you for a self-assessment. Now, if I was, and I know you're traveling with family, so maybe one of them has said something to you. If I were to ask some of the closest people in your life, what do they absolutely dig about you? And what drives them insane?
Insane, I'm always right. It's what was left to me in my yearbook, an argument I couldn't win. I still haven't had that argument. That probably drives everybody insane that knows me. And what they like about me is probably that I'm very generous, but also very organized. I'm really good at getting everything organized quickly. And, and that's important in the film business. That's something a lot of people leave behind. I'll give you just a quick example of it and why I moved into producing just, as much as I do lawyering, is that a lot of producers get some of their releases signed, but they don't understand the scope of the releases they need to get signed. And so when you say, well, what about all the crew, and what about, the assistants, and what about the guy that was on set taking photos for you, and they kind of look at you like, this is more in the indie world. The studio, they've got it together and they've got somebody that's doing this throughout the process, but a lot of independent producers just don't understand that. I create Excel spreadsheets for my clients and I force them to sit down and fill them out with every single person that ever walked across their path on a particular project from day one when they conceived of it. And I make them do that because there's always someone they forget that is going to sue us someday, or is going to stop us from getting the movie delivered to a distributor. So those are important. And I've seen that happen. I'll never forget the film XXXY, which was at Sundance in the 90s, you might with Mark Ruffalo. And it was a movie that got bought up for a lot of money at Sundance. It was very successful. It was a strange menage a trois film that was, sex was a big thing in the 90s, apparently, for film. And, it was a really interesting movie. It sold very quickly, and they couldn't deliver the movie because they'd messed up all the music. They didn't have rights to any of the music. And by the time they fixed that, the purchaser withdrew, whichever, I think it was Fox Searchlight, but I can't remember anymore. They had purchased the movie and they reneged on the deal. And the 20 million bucks that this movie was going to be bought went away, and it ended up selling to Sundance Channel for less money than it had made. That is the perfect example of not being organized in a movie. So that's my thing. People they like me to come in and just sweep everything up and get it organized.
So in other words, get out of your way.
Yeah,
Stay in your way. I get it.
But also generosity. I think this business, if you're not generous, you don't get back the love. You've got to give the love to get the love. Do it with no expectation. So if I give the love to Souad for a project, from Africa, I help connect her with someone, I don't need her to pay me back, because maybe Pam will somehow pay me back, by helping me with casting on something. You can't give to get, you just got to give. And in this business, this is a business about giving. It's also a business about everybody asking all the time. So you have to also know your location and when to sell, and give what you can because it's easy for you to give, but don't give something that's really hard for you to give because it all encompasses you. And, it can undermine what you're working on as well. So you got to have balance all the time. Libra, I'm a Libra.
No, hey, by the way, one of my mentors once said, you're allowed to say not now because no is the beginning of not now, you know,
Yeah.
put in both words. So Souad, how about yourself? What's something that somebody, if I were to ask that close person in your life that they totally love about you and that drives them a little nutty?
People of my friend close on me, what they think about me.
Yes.
Is it the question?
Yes.
What is my quality?
If somebody very close, maybe not even in the industry, what they absolutely adore about you?
I think they adore to see me. What they think, they say that I am elegant.
That's great. That's
And
wonderful.
that
And what would the same person? What would the same person say that drives them a little like, you know, that bugs them? What would the same person say? Maybe
the same person.
Yeah.
They say, oh, you always look great. You always.
Bugs them? Yeah, I can see that.
They like the way that I dress. So they say, where did you find you may where did you find you do find I mean, where did you find all this money to dress or something? He said no, it's something that I choose. It doesn't mean that it's because they think that I manage in a good way. So they say that, and they say it's like quality, and it's like, oh, you go too far.
I said it. How do you look as good as you do, doing what you do? You know, thank you. Pam,
Yeah.
talking about, all right, whether it's Mr. Eisner or Mr. Altman or somebody else, somebody very close to you, what do
Like
they
my husband?
absolutely adore about you?
What they adore about me?
Yeah.
I think what they like about me is I do a lot of things and I get things done and I'm very determined. I think what drives them crazy is I'm a little too serious sometimes and I need to have a little more sense of humor, a little more lightness about things.
Well, may I suggest going to Vinca at the Vineyard right now?
Come on over.
Yeah. I
You-
like
you-
that idea.
You seem pretty light and airy to me right now, but that's great. That is terrific. I understand it is time to open it up for questions from our guests and everything like that. So I'm going to go to the chat function here, and so let's go with. I think we've talked about that. What is the best part about your work, Pam? Since we got you going, go for it.
I think the best part of my work is giving people an opportunity to shine and do a good job. And by them doing that, they make me successful. Because I don't really do anything. I'm not the person up there. I'm not the person acting. I'm not the person auditioning. But if someone does a good audition and they get the job, then they go, oh, she's great. She's a great casting director. So I think that's the greatest thing, is trying to help people be successful and fulfill their dreams.
Wonderful. Souad, how about yourself?
I cannot say more than Pam. Pam, I like to facilitate projects to born. I like it. I'm happy to see people succeed, like she said, Pam.
That's great.
Thank you.
And you do it, runway ready, from what we talked about earlier. You got all the latest fashions going. So excellent. Vinca, how about yourself?
Pam put it so elegantly, but I think that sums up. I really like it when a client closes a deal and feels good about it. Or sometimes when I find out that they're about to close a deal they shouldn't be closing and saving them from it, that I like as well. So both of those aspects make me happy, but certainly not the being at the premiere. because I don't really care about that as much as I probably ought to. But the idea of their movie being up on screen, whether it be at the festival or, you know, actually getting into a theater. I've had about half a dozen real theatrical releases of the indies. But now with all the opportunity of the platform, the clients are so happy when it finally goes up and people are watching it, and knowing that I help them get there, get that distribution deal done. And then, you know, the best, I hate to say it, I hate to reduce it to monetary, but that best moment is when the checks start coming in from the distributors and we start seeing that. And boy, do those clients get happy then. So it's not just the creative side being fulfilled, but they know that they've done something that, you know, is working. So that also makes me happy.
I don't think there's anything wrong. I think, you know, we have to, at the end of the day, this is show business. This is not show friends, you know, and
Right.
you know, we are, you know, we have to keep the lights on and everything. Okay, we have another question. The question, any advice for the people who want to act? I'm gonna throw that out there. Anybody care to answer that one? Any advice for people who want to?
I'll answer it if you want. I think the great thing is there's so many self opportunities right now. I mean, you can do something, put it up on YouTube. There's so many platforms to be seen. I think the other thing is rather than sending those pictures and resumes that actors used to send, now you can choose to do something you're comfortable with and you can send it and people are going to watch it, especially during these times. So I just think there's a lot more opportunity. At the same point, you do have to be careful, you do have to study, and you do have to be careful what pick or choose to put on an audition. And then I always think that people should, before they send it to the casting person or the producer or the director, get one other opinion. Get one other opinion. Is there something maybe you should do a little different? And if so, maybe try it and then look at them both and say, hey, yeah, you know, they were right. I want to send that one. That's my advice.
I would add to that, get your trusted circle. I like her idea of one person, but I like a trusted circle. Trusted circle don't yes you. Trusted circle are people you trust implicitly that will tell you the truth and help you get to go. And they should be both non-industry and industry. If you're making these audition tapes, get an editor friend on your team who can really look at it. Some of the audition tapes I've seen as a producer have been dreadful because of the editing, and that can get in the way of the acting. That is absolutely going to influence it. And last, I would say I'm quite aware, because I have so many actor friends, that right now there's a lot of famous actors, really qualified, that are doing acting workshops online. And I would say if you're trying to act now and you do not have the big Stella Adler or someone else in your backstory for your workshops, and you don't have that going on now, get on some of these workshops. They're very inexpensive and it's a great way to keep your craft going. Acting is a craft you have to fine tune all your life. The best actors like Al Pacino and things like that, people like that go to workshops all of their lives. They do not just give up on it when they get the first role. So keep your craft fresh and learn from new people.
Terrific. Souad, would you care to chime in?
I would like to say that in France, there is a big change now, because before you have actors from, French actors who come from a high class family, big rich people, white rich people, and they go to school, etc. And now you can see more diversity, because the people from Asia, Africa, Arabic, which are French, they show their quality, their talent in how you say, comment on appelle, stand up. They go to TV, they make stand up, or they sing rap, for example, rappers rap or stand up, bring very new faces, a lot of new faces in cinema, because you can see the charisma of these people. Sometimes they come from the singers or rap. Sometimes they make stand up, And now you can see a lot of different faces, which is a very good thing for actors. It's better than before. It's more mixed, more.
That's great. No, thank you very much. We have another question that just came in. And for everybody, what is your method for establishing new relationships in the industry organically?
I'll start. I'll happily
Please.
start with that. Festivals. Create your festival family by going to festivals around the world. If you don't have the buck to get on the plane to a Cannes or a Berlinale, do it locally and go to the local festivals. They are sometimes even better than the big ones, because what happens is the industry people, the few industry people that show up to the smaller one, really bond because they all kind of group together really quickly. And I have lifelong festival friends now since I've come into the industry, actually since before, when I was going to Sundance back in the, going way back to the 90s, early 90s. I met before I was even full-time. When I was a practicing environmental litigator, I started making those festival family people. That's how you bond. Throw dinners. You don't have to pay for the dinners. I can tell you that. You just let everybody know how the payment is going to work and stuff, that, nobody's going to come and drink 3 bottles of champagne and foist it off on everybody else. I like to set rules at these things and let people know in advance how the rules are played so that we don't have that. There's always a big wheeler at the table that will pick up a little bit more money, sometimes even the whole meal. But sometimes they'll put, when it's a $40 a head, they'll put $100 or $200 down, and that's good for everybody and stuff. But you shouldn't count on that. And you should also watch out for the people you know at the table. Maybe it's an actor, maybe it's a young producer, someone right out of school who doesn't have the money, and watch out for them and make their number lower than everybody's intentionally. So I like to, that's how I kind of make my relationship, by hosting these things that bring lots of divergent people together and watching this project, and then hoping once in a while I get brought into that project as well. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, and that's okay as well. But that's it. And then keeping up with everybody, keeping a Rolodex that really is easy to sort and find people again, and keep notes. I always tell everyone, take those business cards if you're still getting them. People don't use them that often anymore, but write on the other side of them, or take notes on your phone when you meet someone. Say, I met them at Cannes at Vinca's dinner. It can be that simple, so that when I bump into someone again, if I bump into Andy years later, I can quickly go, oh, Andy, I know him. Who is that? I look him up and I go, oh my God, he was at the Cannes dinner in 2007. And I go, Andy, it's Vinca. Remember the Cannes dinner? And Andy will go like, oh my God, yes, because he didn't remember me either. But the minute I triggered him, he remembered. Okay. So something like that is really, really important for gaining those relationships and keeping them. And, always treat everybody, whether they're on their way up or at the top already, the same. Treat everybody with respect, because today's assistant taking the phone call for, a Robert Altman or an Eisner or whatever, that person is going to be, in 10 years, could be the president of the company. It's not unusual. They could end up making the next A-list movie. It happens all the time. Suddenly, Africa made the biggest film, in the world, but I might have a project that wants to go to Africa. So I have to treat Souad with just as much respect as I treat Pam out of New York, Andy with what he does. Each one of us deserves full respect until we don't. If we mess with you, then you don't need to do that. But be kind to people, and it will come back to you. It will really come back to you. And I find that the best people that I have met in the industry are those people that take the minute or two to talk to you, because who knows what will happen in the future. And I have seen that at every level, from super A-list stars. I've hung out with people like Tilda Swinton when I was absolutely nobody. She wasn't the big star she is now, but she was certainly a medium star already. And she treated me like anybody. She was a good person and fun to hang out with. And over the years, that's developed into more festival family like that. So that's an example, with kind of name dropping example. It happens.
Outstanding. Goes back to that adage, we put on our legs one leg at a time. Pam, yourself. about the organic?
Well, she said a lot. I think that was very helpful. The only other thing I might add to it is the idea of volunteering. Whenever, like when I teach at UCLA and someone wants to volunteer to help me, I love that because then I get to know them. Or if you're at a film festival like that, Film Independent, they have volunteers every year that are there. And it was interesting when I went to the last Film Independent where I was a speaker, I parked in the Writers Guild parking lot and a person came to get me. It was a person from my UCLA class. And I went, you really listen to me. That's great. And he met so many people. The other thing I suggest, if possible, if you see someone speak or you're in a room with somebody, to write them a note to say, I saw you today. I thought what your information you gave was really interesting. It never hurts to send a thank you note, even in these times, by email. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a personal note, but I think it's important to say that, or you put it up on social media. I think that's important.
I just put my email up for everybody. I am happy to, yeah, I just put it up. I am an open book. I don't believe in hiding that stuff. If I don't respond, I'm busy or it just goes into the thing. But I always say this, I'm a New Yorker, pester me till I answer. One of my local Boston clients, it took him a year to get my attention, a year. And you know how he got my attention? He made a meeting with me for AFM. He lived in Boston. I live in Boston, and I'm so busy. I have so little time in between festivals at home that I rarely focus on anything but real work when I'm there. So I don't take new stuff on. So he met me in LA. This is going about 6 years ago, and literally said, "My God, it's taken me a year to get your attention. I had to do it in LA when we both live at home." And I said, "Yeah, I'm really sorry about that." He's become a friend and a client, and I helped get his movie distributed, and the rest is history. So I just say, keep on it. Don't think because somebody's silent that they've shut you down. It's a hard industry. We all work really, really, really hard. We don't know which way is up, down sometimes. Even our downtime is watching movies. So we're never leaving our industry. Watch television or something like that. And our brains don't just shut off to enjoy it. We're analyzing it. Pam is looking for new cast when she watches something. I'm looking for what stories work so I can say to my client that's already been done, or that actor is really good from that. Andy is looking for stuff for producing, correct, Andy, and content.
Yes. By the way, I apologize for cutting you off, but we are out of time. I've been getting some, no, it's okay. I want to thank our Souad, I apologize, but I'll let you have a final word. I want to thank our very special guests tonight, Souad, Pam, today, and Vinca for doing this. And I want to I'm going to give you my personal pledge. Okay, you three, when you see me again, I will not grow hair. I will look the exact same. Okay?
You promise?
So it's not like, hey, he looks like Andy with hair. That is my personal pledge to you. But I want to thank you all. Ingrid, Sonia, Daniel, thank you for allowing me to do this. I learned a lot, okay? And I've been in this industry a while. I think that's one of the best things about this industry. We continue to learn and forge new relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you, very much. Thank you, Ingrid and Sonia, for hosting. We really enjoyed it.
Much for joining us today on a Saturday. I know it's beautiful in California, and it
sure is.
It's curfew time actually in France right now, so it's perfect time to be on Zoom and learn more from all of you. So thank you again for your time.
Yep.
And
thank you.
I'm so sorry we have to let you go because we have another panel starting in 10 minutes. Thank you for our audience members, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Here, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, all.